no one's lying to us, basically. We're forced to be innovative about the whole process and to nurture the process and that red carpet experience that you're discussing, as opposed to realtors. You want to buy a house, you gave me a call, sure, I'll show you a house. And then they're basically selling a house like ice cream, which in 2022, or I guess early part of 2022, 2021, you could have done that maybe. If you got the right kind of buyer, right kind of seller, like that's how it works. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are here live with Cody May, the man, the myth, and the legend. Cody, before we get into anything real estate related, so obviously we're friends. I've known you. I've been following you for sure for a while now. And I know that you are a man who likes to travel a lot and kind of live in different places. And right now you just so happen to be in Argentina, who, for anybody listening to this on a podcast or the recording, not live, Argentina literally about 2 days ago won the World Cup. What the heck is going on over there?
Yeah, man, it was wild. We were, we obviously watched the game on Sunday, and it was absolutely wild, like electric. It was so cool to kind of take in the experience with the Argentinian people. Like a lot of my call center and my team and like a lot of my support staff live in Argentina and they live in Colombia. So I flew out some of my Canadian staff and we did an event 3 weeks ago, but on Sunday we had the event and we went down to the Obelisco and it was like millions of people in the streets. It was insanity. We were chatting off air about like how crazy it was when the Raptors won in Toronto. This was unlike anything I've ever seen. Like the amount of people, the honking of the horns, people like driving through with Buenos Aires with Argentinian flags. It was electric. It didn't stop. Like we got back to, so we were in Obelisco, which is like kind of their downtown center. We went down there, it was like crazy. And then we came back to where we're staying in Palermo and it was like, it was a party everywhere. Like everywhere you went, roads blocked off, like people like blocking off roads so they could dance in the streets. It was a ton of like spirit. It was freaking phenomenal, man.
Did you watch the game like in any, I don't know, where'd you watch it?
I just watched it. We went to like a Sheridan. We had a bunch of friends that my business partner Vikram knows. We just watched it in a Sheraton lobby, like where like kind of like a lounge is where we watched it. And then it was like probably about like 10, 11 blocks away from the center. So then we walked down to the center after they won. It was like, is like just absolutely crazy.
I can't imagine anybody in that entire country was doing anything else that day except for watching.
No, everything was closed. Everyone was watching. There's so much pride in Argentina. Like they really love their country, and this was like a really big win for them because, like, again, it's a country that like is it's fairly oppressed. Like it's a poor country. So like they were able to rally together. It was cool to see the Argentina people like rally together and just like have so much spirit for their country on one day. And like it was really cool to see what Messi did because like he's like, again, he's a legend. He's a GOAT.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say like a god over there. Like it's
100%. Yeah, 100%. People are just screaming, yelling, crying, laughing in the streets. It was pretty incredible. It was a once in a lifetime experience. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. So let's jump right into this. So if anybody who kind of doesn't know Cody, Cody is a lead generation expert when it comes to generating online leads for real estate. Anybody who thinks I'm an expert, just so you guys all know for context, Cody's the guy that I defer to. So Cody's like a serious stud. He's a real expert here. And so he is the founder and CEO of an agency called Sheridan St. Used to be called Studio PTBO, which we're going to get into that rebrand in just a moment. But before we get into anything else, what does Sheridan St do? Just give us a quick overview.
Yeah, high level overview of what we do. We run ads on Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, TikTok, any platform to essentially generate leads, fill the funnel. We nurture leads for life with programs we call Deal of the Week, email sprinkler, market update. And we essentially also have in-house ISA. So I have a call center that calls to qualify leads. We also work the back end system as well. So we have inside sales agents that dial leads to set appointments, live transfers, and we also book in-person showings with our IDX concierge that essentially works your back end property search in order to fill the front end, but also work the back end of sales system to get you more deals under contract. High level overview of what we do.
Yeah, so there's a lot there, but it's basically kind of just the bottom of the funnel. Well, more middle and bottom of the funnel stuff. Obviously, the ads are top of the funnel as well. But in terms
Totally.
of like, it's more kind of geared towards the actual conversion itself. I'm assuming the conversion cycle with yours is probably a little bit shorter because you're number one, you're getting them right to the transaction that you want to buy yes or no, and then if they're not want to buy yet, you'll still kind of handle that follow up and everything like that. Is that kind of a good synopsis?
Yeah, like, what we say is like our job is to create conversations. Our agents' jobs is to, convince them on why they should work with them. So, we specialize in creating conversations. We give them all the scripts, the tools, the trainings. Like one of the partners in my agency, Sharon Savatza, has a very big background in the real estate. He's currently the president of Real. And really smart dude, has been a very big portion of like what we've created to this date.
Just to clarify, he's inside of your agency.
Yeah. So he's like he's kind of a silent partner with us, kind of an investor in kind of like where we're going. So
that's pretty
a lot of it, a lot of his concepts and principles and ideas kind of like come from him. So he's become a good friend, good mentor over the last couple of years. And like, we're just looking to kind of scale out and build, a really kick-ass system over the next couple of years where, we're really driving real conversations, real results. And a lot of the principles like deal of the week came from Sharon. That's his principle. So a lot of the clients he advises, we advise as well. And we do a lot of the back end work for them that helps them set up their system for success.
Got you. So why did you rebrand? Because you were Studio PTBO, and then you're now Sheridan St. What happened there?
So Studio PTBO was when I started the company. So I came in and I had another partner, and our focus in the beginning was we were an agency out of Peterborough, Canada, and it was like we were a studio. We were doing video, we were doing websites, we were doing graphic design. And we were doing a bunch of different things in order to kind of serve a local market. We had clients in Toronto area, like kind of outside of Peterborough, but the vast majority of our clients were out of Peterborough. So naturally, our name was Studio PTBO. So about a year and a half ago,
that was real estate exclusively that you serviced.
No, we serviced everyone. We worked with I've had the opportunity over the last 4 years to work with large brands. We've worked with Freedom Mobile on like some campaigns. We worked with the Ontario SPCA. We worked with Access Storage. Like we worked with like some pretty large brands, and that like in the beginning we were going after more of like a brand heavy focus, and we're working on a lot of large marketing campaigns in Canada specifically. That's kind of like what we transitioned to. And about a year and a half ago, we decided that this is around the time that like the partner decided to exit the company. Around that time, we wrote a book called What If You Could. And around that time, like I just kind of had I was doing so much and I was so involved in the day-to-day operations, and I'm still fairly involved in the day-to-day operations of the business, but I kind of like made a decision about a year and a half ago to go all in on real estate. And like, I was kind of dabbling in real estate, but I'm like, if I'm going to create a really, really great product, I need to be able to know the niche, and I need to be able to know the industry on a really, really deep level. And we decided to go all in on real estate with really no brand in real estate. Like we were just Studio PTBO. People didn't really know. Like they knew Studio PTBO, but like they didn't know us as a real estate marketing company. So about a year and a half ago, we started pivoting all of our stuff. We started kind of like being like, hey, if you're not a real estate agent, unfortunately, we can help you. And that's kind of evolved now to today, where it's like we only work with real estate agents and teams. And it brought us to a crossroads earlier this year where we're like, like Studio PTBO no longer reflects who we are today, where it's like we no longer have an office in Peterborough. We're no longer servicing local businesses in Peterborough. We're not a studio. Like it just didn't reflect who we were and who we kind of grew into when I took over the company, and I started running it solo. So we decided we were going to rebrand, and like, I'm like, I have no idea what I want to call us. It took me 3 months to kind of figure out like what I wanted to rebrand the company to. So our original office was actually located on Sheridan St in Peterborough. So it's kind of like, for me, it's an ode to the past of like, hey, this is where we once were, and this is kind of like where we're headed now. So that like for me was, obviously meant a lot. Sheridan St. The other reason, it actually means seeker in Gaelic, and that's kind of like what we do. We help help real estate agents see new business. And it just kind of aligns more into kind of like where we're headed in the future with like serving real estate agents teams at a really high level.
Got you. Okay, so let's keep it high level here for a second, because I think that the term lead gen is such a misunderstood term, right? So how often, man, if I had a dime for every time I had a conversation with somebody that said I worked with lead gen agencies and the leads just were not good, and then, like I always say, you've got two schools of thought when it comes to lead generation and growing your company. One school of thought is online leads are terrible. It's a terrible way to grow your company. I was like, well, online leads are terrible, but it's not as simple as that. And then other people say online leads are the absolute easiest way and best way to scale your business. It's like, well, online leads are the best way of scaling your business, but it's not as simple as that. But how can both be true at once, right? So obviously for me, the way I see it is like a lead, obviously there's different qualities of leads, but for the most part, it's not hard to target somebody that might be quasi interested in buying or selling a home at some point in the future. The lead is not the hard part. The hard part is what happens next and the systems that kind of surround the actual lead generation and everything as well. When I ask you this question, what is lead generation? How would you answer? What is lead generation to you?
So high level overview on lead generation for me is like an opt-in. It's somebody that has expressed interest in some way, shape, or form. It could be through they downloaded a PDF. It's really, to me, lead generation is list building. It's expanding your reach in such a way where it's like you have a list that allows you to create a relationship. So for me, I always start with lead generation. Like if we're talking like the definition of a lead is somebody that gives you their name, their email address, and their phone number. They might transact within 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months. They may never transact at all. And the reason that I say that is because, my mentor, Sharon, recently told me about somebody that was on his email list for over 10 years, like over 10 years on his email list. And they just made a $1 million transaction together. Like 10 years, $1 million. Yeah. So it's like, I look at lead generation, like that's my high level overview on lead generation is like just somebody that like has opted into some sort of, freebie, somebody that has expressed interest in something, somebody that's, set up on your IDX search list. They may never transact at all, but that to me is lead generation. You're generating a lead. Now there's other elements around sales process and everything. That's something totally different and that we can totally get into.
A lot of the time, there's really two schools of thought. Is one school of thought says online leads are not good, and that's true, but it's not that simple. And one train of thought says that online leads are the best way to scale your business, and it's also true, but it's not that simple. So it's really it's obviously, as you know, it's a numbers game. So if I generate 100 leads, let's say 2% of them will convert, and those are NAR statistics, right? 2% of them will convert. You cannot find those two unless you also generate 98 that are not going to convert. You can't get one without the other. They're part and parcel. And so all of this like obsession with like online leads need to convert right now, and it needs to be right now, and they just need to kind of come. Like people tell me that if you get me a lead, if you get somebody who's ready and willing to purchase or buy a house, like I'm really good at doing that. I'm not very, my skill set isn't like the other part, the generating leads. Like that is the job. There is no separating those two things. That is the entire job. And so like you mentioned, 10 years later, a $1 million transaction actually converted. So what happens between that what happens that this individual is doing to leverage his systems that in 10 years from now, he can leverage a transaction from a lead that 10 years ago was absolute quote unquote trash versus the agent that gets that lead and says, this person's not going to be ready for 10 years. No, thank you. And we'll never see a penny from that person.
And I just want to preface that this was a $1 million investment. Like this wasn't a home sale. This is like an investment, into Sharon's fund, which is crazy. So I'm talking like $1 million. Like I'm not talking about $1 million home. I'm talking about like a $1 million investment. So
I didn't understand. I didn't get that.
Yeah. So and I just wanted to preface that so like everyone listening understands that like there's power in the database and there's power in email marketing and text marketing and building a list. Because again, like you do the math on on that over 10 years, that's $100,000 a client per year. Like if you just look at that base level line. So I think that something we need to consider when we're generating leads and building a list is that because we have to look at things from a longer buying cycle. So, with real estate, for the most part, people generally are looking, and this is what Zillow's done really well, where it's like, you know, if we just even follow the Zillow model and we get to the point where it's like we can, like, Zillow owns the traffic or you can own the traffic. It's really your choice. Like you can run Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, TikTok, get the traffic, put them into an IDX search list, and then nurture them that way. But I think that the other element is like just providing like a high level amount of value and that consistent touch point. Like look at some of the top marketers in the world and what are they doing? Like what are the Russell Brunsons, the Frank Kerns, the Dan Henrys, like what are they doing? Even the top, like even look at Ryan Serhant and his, like, you know, look at him, like what is he doing? He's consistently emailing the list value. He's consistently putting out different courses, for example, or different information about, you know, like video, but it's also like, you know, it's list building is really what it comes down to. And it's like people like, that's really what nurture is. Like, you know, we talked about NAR stats earlier, where it's like, we know that if you follow up at least 7 times, you can increase your contact rate by 70%. So there's things that there's different elements towards kind of like what a good sales process looks like. And like generally when we get like a lot of people talk about speed to lead, like I like to use the term speed to process. So what I mean by speed to process is like how quickly can that lead enter a red carpet experience? So when I have that conversation with that lead, like what are the next 7 steps that I need to take in order to actually get the person into an in-person meeting? Like we specialize in, okay, here's the conversation. How do you articulate your value, or how do you articulate in such a way that allows the prospect to know that you're different than everyone else? Because let's be honest, like real estate agents are a dime a dozen.
Right.
Like what is your value in the marketplace? Again, right now, like, you know, Sharon says this all the time, like we have exited a momentum-based market. We are now in a skills-based market. What does that mean? Skills-based market means that your ability to effectively persuade, communicate, and negotiate on an initial call is super important. Like the amount of transactions has dropped in less than half. So how do we, like, you're going to see, like, there was a stat that me and Sharon were talking about the other day where they're expecting over 275,000 people in 2023 are going to hang up their license. It's a large number.
Yeah.
A lot of people have come into the system and they've capitalized on the momentum-based market, but now we're entering a skills-based market where it's like you're gonna have a lot more conversations. People are still gonna make a lot of money in this market. You're gonna have to have a lot more conversations. You are going to have to do a lot more buyer consults. If you've never done a buyer consult, which really in 2020, 2021, even 2022, you really haven't had to do. It's like you show up, you show the home, you're good to go. Now it's a matter of like figuring out like what are they approved for? Like I chat with agents all the time that have no idea, like, because like their process right now is lead comes to me, send them to a lender. That's one of the worst things that you can do.
Yeah.
Because you don't know their specific circumstance. You know nothing about them. You're assuming because they make X amount of money that they can't get a co-signer. You're assuming that they can't get approved for a first-time home buyer grant. In the US alone, like I was at a NAREP event, National Association of Hispanic Realtors, there is $17,500 worth of grants available in Florida. And I have Florida agents sending them to lenders and being like, sending them to one lender. And it's like, well, no, you should be sending them to multiple lenders based on their specific circumstance, because other lenders like Citibank right now told us that there are $17,500 worth of first-time homebuyer grants. Like that's not a loan, Oliver. That is a grant. That is like money that the city is giving to in order to purchase properties. Money in the ecosystem is just we're not educated enough about what's happening. So therefore we don't educate our clients enough on what's happening. So I think that, you know, if you want to do lead generation really effectively, and, you know, if you talk to 10 people, like some of our top clients, if they talk to 10 people, they're getting 4 to 5 into in-person meetings.
Yeah.
Like think about that. Think about having 5 more in-person meetings a week, or 5 in-person meetings that you never had in a month. Like even if you close 1 out of the 5, do the math. If you're in a high ticket market, you're looking at, you know, $20,000 worth of, you know, commissions in you know, a $750,000 market. So it's just getting clarity around like how you can serve each and every person and create a red carpet experience for every single person that comes in your ecosystem. And we as agency owners, like I think that we genuinely try to do this. We genuinely try to educate real estate agents on how they can market. And it's like that same level of passion that we put into educating our market. I always implore our real estate agents that we work with, like, to do the same thing, but do it belly to belly. And if they can't do it, like, do it to belly, but also do it wide, like creating podcasts like what you're creating.
Yeah, you actually there's a couple of things kind of to unpack there. Is I think on the one hand, the kind of, although we don't sell the same services, but the services that we are selling is actually a harder sell. And it's interesting that it's a harder sell because we're not really reliant on any kind of market here, right? Like, it doesn't matter if the market's hot, if the market's not hot. Like, our services, we position ourselves right, are evergreen. They're always needed. Mm-hmm. So I think we're forced to kind of, no one's lying to us, basically. We're forced to be innovative about the whole process and to nurture the process and that red carpet experience that you're discussing, as opposed to realtors. You want to buy a house, you gave me a call, sure, I'll show you a house. And then they're basically selling a house like ice cream, which in 2022, I guess early part of 2022, 2021, you could have done that maybe if you got the right kind of buyer, right kind of seller. Like, that's how it works. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. So as you mentioned also at the end there, this is the age of education, the skill-based realtors. And I would even say, and I'm not saying exclusively webinars, but I would say this is the age of the webinar, meaning this is the age where you get in front of people and you say, this is how it works. Like you said, the buyer presentation, which is basically a buyer presentation, is the same thing as a webinar, but a buyer presentation is with one person, a webinar is with many people. So you got many people onto the line, right? Like, you're a Florida realtor. You say, here are the steps to owning a home. There's grants like this. They go, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, because every realtor, they say, you want to buy a home? Here's my lender. So here's a question. What is the obsession? Because I've seen it all over the place. What is the obsession with realtors getting a phone call, having a conversation with somebody, and just saying, here's my lender's number, give them a call? I'm like, just sitting there by the phone, fingers crossed that they're going to make the call. The lender's going to know how to close it. And the whole process is going to actually go the way it's supposed to be. And they're relying on so many different things happening before they could ever possibly help that client. What's the obsession with that?
If I knew that, I would tackle it. I don't know. I think it's just the way that people have been taught. Like, it's like, that is the process that they have been taught, and that's, or that's what they've always done. So therefore, this is what they do, and that's how they treat referral business the same way. And that might work with referral business because you already technically have that warm introduction where it's like, hey, speak to my lender. But I even think about, like, I think back to even like the process that, like, of me, like, I was going to buy a home in Peterborough. I think about the process of, like, when I was going to buy it, like, it was the same thing. Like, send them to the lender, but I'm like, but I trust you. Like, I don't trust the lender. So it's like, I've seen some people do some cool things. Like, if they do decide to go that route, they create like a group chat between the lender and they make that warm introduction again. Where it's not like, just go talk to my lender. They create a group chat, and then it's the three-way, and then the realtor is responsible for the follow-up to kind of see, like, where they're at. I just think that to say, here, go talk to my lender, is just, it creates so much confusion for the prospect that wants to actually purchase a home. But, if you actually see yourself as a trusted advisor, I tend to look at the financial planning industry doing it right. So if you want to sit down and speak to a financial planner, whether you have money or not, majority of financial planners are going to sit down and talk to you about your specific circumstance. They're going to create a plan of attack. And if they can't help you, if they can't help you, then someone actually can help. And that person then will sit down and talk to them about the planning steps that, you need to take in order to, become financially free or be able to save up for a home. If you want to be seen as a trusted advisor in this space, like, you need to be able to provide some sort of value. It can't be like, hey, you want to buy a home? Like cool. Like, here's my lender. Like, we'll go start going. Like, you are now a commodity that way. It's like, what does your red carpet experience look like? What separates you from everyone else? And that goes for the offer. That goes for, like, and if you don't have an offer, you're not serving a specific niche, then that needs to be on the back end of how you effectively communicate your value. Because right now, it's like, well, you got to remember, it's like that person you're connected with probably has a brother who's a real estate agent as well. So you're not just going up against other realtors. You're going up against, like, a family member. You're going up against somebody who knows somebody. Like, it's like, there's so many realtors in the space that I think it's super important that we take a look at the value that we are looking to provide to the end consumer, and kind of reverse engineer that what that process looks like, so that we can effectively communicate our value and not be a commodity.
Yeah, I like to also, I'm not reading the comments also here. I says meeting a prospective client, building a rapport, then introducing the lender. Exactly. That kind of rapport has to happen first. And I think just to kind of visualize what this looks like on from the side of the home buyer, right? Let's imagine if you as a realtor, anybody watching this, listen to this. Imagine if you as a realtor reached out to Cody or myself and said, I'm really looking for ways to take my business to the next level. What do you guys offer? You go, yeah, sure. We'll have that conversation here. Call your bank or call this number here. This is a I don't know, a lender. Just make sure that you're qualified to take that amount of money. Then call your brokerage to make sure that you're able to work with another company and everything like that. And make sure also have a meeting with the broker to see that what we do actually fits within your system. And then here's my calendar link. When you've done those two things, then book a time to call right here, and then we'll have a conversation. Like, no, hell no. Like, I'm not doing that. It's just, you want to talk to me. I'm here. I'm asking you for help. So then you get them on the phone, and then you have the conversation, you build a rapport. And then for me, my sales cycle is a lot longer. 9 times out of 10 on the first phone call, people don't close. I'm cool with that because I invite them to my Facebook group. We watch you watch content like you guys are watching and listening to right now. You're in my ecosystem. You see what we're about. And then finally, basically, when you're ready, we have a conversation. And as long as I'm consistently building up my backlog of leads of people who are in my ecosystem, engaging in my content, enjoying my stuff, appreciating the guests like Cody that I actually have on the show, by the time you guys want to call me back at that point in time, I'm also checking in as the day goes on. And that's a much more red carpet experience as opposed to, hey, I'm looking to grow my business. Great. Here are 7 numbers to call. And then once you've done that, you can click on this link and then maybe we'll meet over Zoom. Like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah. To add to that, like you have an option every day you wake up as a real estate agent. You can either be seen as a sales professional, or you can be seen as a cashier and clerk. And it's like, are you taking numbers? Like, are you waiting tables, or are you a trusted advisor, or are you a sales professional? And I think that, like, we talk about that red carpet experience. We talk about that, really providing a high level amount of value requires you to be educated about the market, have good conversations, be able to, pull out of people, like, why do they want to move? Like, what's the important element? If they tell you they want a big backyard, like, why do they want a big backyard? Like, knowing about their family, like digging deep, building, emotional rapport. And this is everything like my business partner Vikram talks about with his with the real estate agents in their growth academy. Is like, how can we go deeper with people so that they build this level of trust with us, so that they want to choose us because they have this emotional connection to us, because we provided not just value, but we built a deep level of connection in such a short amount of time. And like Sharon says this to me all the time. He's like, and he said, like, we were at an event with like his sales team, and he said that, like, these are some of the top agents from around the country, and even that they weren't necessarily using Sharon's scripts in order to convert people. And he's like, use these scripts, they work. Like, I sold over $5 billion worth of real estate. Like, he's now the president of Real. He's like, this stuff works. And he was explaining to me that he's explaining to everyone, he's like, you're 10 times more likely to get the deal if you just meet with somebody in person. It's the belly to belly conversations. It's like, now with like the world open back up, you should be trying to push to meet at Starbucks, trying to push to meet at your office, trying to, set the meeting. Like, your entire job of a live transfer or talking with somebody is like amazing. Like, we use this script. It's called the why don't we so that. So it's like, it literally goes like this. Has anyone taken the time to educate you on the top 3 reasons of whether you should or shouldn't buy in today's market? And they're going to say no. And then you're going to be like, okay, cool. Why don't we sit down over a cup of coffee to chat about, to kind of educate you so that you can make an informed, intelligent decision when you are ready to buy. Do mornings or afternoons work better for you? Just that simple frame and that simple script. I guarantee you, everyone that uses that script will set more in-person meetings that allow you to have better conversations. And even if that person doesn't transact with you, you've now educated that person, and you can now go to them. It's like, hey, I'm just on a mission to help as many home buyers and, homeowners as possible with this knowledge. I know that, we might not be ready to kind of make a move. Do you know anyone else would you mind making an introduction so I could share this information with some more people? And then it's all cyclical. It's like, even the person you're in front of might not transact. It's like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, do you know anyone else who would value this information, because like, even I was chatting, like I see in the chat, it's like, where do I get this, these information about these Florida grants? Citibank, there's three, I can get you the information, but it was National Association of Hispanic Realtors. They had mortgage loan officers come in. It's like, just go to every bank that you can possibly go to, create relationships with every bank and every like lender. And, it's like, hey, whenever something pops up that is like out of the ordinary or creative financing, please let me know about this. But there was 3 banks that were at this event. So attend to more events, like where they're talking about loans and processes and things like that. That'll give you up-to-date information on what's available. But if you know this, you're able to go into these meetings with so much more ammo, and like, they're going to trust you so much more, especially if they're a first-time home buyer. It's like, hey, is anyone taking the time to talk to you about like, hey, maybe they have a retirement fund. Maybe they can borrow against the retirement fund. That's possible. That's a way. A lot of people don't know that you can do that. You can borrow, for a down payment against a retirement fund, as long as your retirement fund is set up properly. There are ways to get people in the homes, and we're just not aware of these different ways to kind of provide value.
There's so many things in there. Like, just to kind of unpack it, there are 3 things. First off is I love, why don't we so that? That framework is such a simple one to follow. Why don't we, has anybody ever done this? Why don't we so that? Why don't we just sit down for a cup of coffee so we can educate you on the reasons? And I feel like that approach, like there's a couple of things. First off, you framed it that nobody else has done this with you before. I'm going to do this with you. I'm going to do this with you. So you've already separated yourself, so that when you do have that, let's say they're not ready to buy, you say, what about anybody else? You've already distinguished yourself and differentiated yourself from the other agents, that you're willing to go that extra step. Nobody else has taken the time to do this. You have. And so, yeah, you know what? I do know somebody, and you seem like a good guy. You've asked me that question. Why don't we so that? So therefore I trust you, and I'll refer some business to you. That's number 1. Number 2 is, if we remove ourselves from the short-term return on investment thinking, the buy or die mindset, it's not about that, guys, for so many different reasons. And there's the last 2 things that I wanted to talk about this are exclusively on why buy or die mindset is not the right approach in anything high ticket, particularly real estate. Number 1, competence builds confidence. So let's say this person that you're talking to doesn't end up buying, but you had a conversation with somebody. You said, why don't we so that? They get on, they have a cup of coffee with you, and you're like, wow, this has never happened before. You have a conversation with them. They love you. You ask them for referrals. They say, no, I don't know anybody. And then at the end of the day, you got $0 from that. But what you did is you got an appointment. You saw firsthand that the approach that you took generated a really friendly, enjoyable, and pleasant conversation with somebody, that whether or not they're ready to buy, you say, hey, this kind of works. And then it becomes fun. So business isn't fun, number 1, if you don't enjoy the process, or if it's not, or if it's not working. Like, if it's so much harder. So anybody, I don't want to say anybody watching this, but if you're anybody that's struggling in their business a lot, like, business is not fun unless it starts to work. So we need to find ways of making something work, and then it will start to get fun. And trust me, if your business is really struggling right now and you feel like you're killing yourself, like, you're probably working harder, at least mentally, emotionally, whatever it is, than the people that are succeeding. Because even if they are working harder than you in terms of quantity or even quality, the amount of pressure that you're under, the lack of enjoyment possibly that you're experiencing, makes it that you have to work so much harder. So find some successes, have these conversations. That's number 2, is that competence breeds confidence, which will make the entire process more fun.
Totally.
And then the last thing is, when you were mentioning about now is the time to kind of have more of these conversations, when you're looking at something as return on investment exclusively. When I do this podcast, for example, yes, there's a return on investment, but there wasn't a return on investment. And that's not why it started. The great thing about this, and I had no idea, to tell you the truth, why I was doing a podcast when I started it. I just knew I wanted to do it. But I got connected with fantastic people like yourself. I learned so much stuff. And so people ask me, like, because there's so many ideas coming out of my think tank, as it were, about different ways of generating leads, different ways of making your life easier so that you can scale your business. How do you think of all of these? Well, here's a secret. I don't think of all of these. I learn from everybody that I can. I hear experiences. We think tank inside of Inabox twice a week. So all I'm doing is immersing myself in the culture of real estate, in the culture of scaling your real estate business. And now I can leverage brilliant people like Cody, like all of the guests on our show, who help take this to the next level. So if you're a realtor, you're going out talking to people, they may not buy from you, but you're learning things about what they want, what they need, what their objections are. And just doing that allows you to create messaging that cuts through all the crap, cuts through all of the noise.
100%.
And then you can really start to scale it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm like totally with you, because like you can take like these presentations that you do in person and you're going to get the objections in real time. And when you get the objections in real time in person, it's a lot easier to create a good buyer presentation, or it's better, like a good buyer seminar. Like, it's like, what are the questions that people are actually asking? Like, the more belly to bellies you have, like, I just know that that framework works, and some people want to use it and some people don't. And like, you know, hey, like I just refer them back to Sharon. Like, you know, like, hey, you know, like Sharon sold TELUS properties to Douglas Elliman. You know, it was like, look it up, just Google it. He knows it. He's sold real estate. He sat in homes across, like he sat in living rooms. He knows how to speak to clients. He knows the right thing to say. People want to be educated. Like, it's like, you have to start somewhere. And I think that education is the best place to start, whether, like, you know, if you want to go broad, like in the beginning, it's hard to go broad in the beginning because, like, you know, you need to spend money in order to build a list.
Yep.
But you don't necessarily, like, if you go belly to belly in the beginning and you just set more appointments, like if you're struggling, you said, like, you were speaking to struggling agents, your only focus as a real estate agent, if you're struggling, is setting appointments, like nothing else. Like, and we always say to even our team, like, we know we have a team of now 35, we're spread out all across the world. We say to our team, focus drives action, action drives momentum, momentum drives results. And it's like, if you just get singular focus as a real estate agent around, like, the only thing I need to do today is I need to wake up and I need to call and I need to set appointments, because that's the only way you're going to get paid. Like, we say that there's 3 types of business. There's now business, there is referral business, and there's pipeline business. In order to grow a scalable business, you need all 3. But the now business is only created through more conversations or evangelists. And evangelist is a very different than a referral or a sphere of influence. An evangelist is like, everyone they speak with, they talk about you. Those are very, very difficult to like create within a business. The creating an evangelist is super hard. It's, you know, it's like you're creating like somebody that, like, you know, wherever they go, they talk about you. So there's now business that's created through conversation. There's referral business that is, you know, created through your sphere. A lot of agents are like, oh, I build my business on referral and sphere. That's amazing. And that should be something you should strategically create. Like, you should connect with lenders. You should connect with mortgage advisors. You should connect with financial planners, create strategic partnerships. You should really make that a focus for your business in 2023. The issue is, no one wakes up in the morning thinking about how they can refer you more business. It doesn't happen. Like, Johnny's not waking up in the morning thinking about, like, how can I refer you more business today? It's like, you have to cultivate that referral business. The third type of business that you and I work on, Oliver, is the pipeline business. It's like, you know, it's like, over time, if I get my list from 1,000 to 5,000, do you think my 5,000 person list eventually is going to transact with me? Of course it is. It's going to take time. I have to nurture them. I'm going to send out 3 emails a week. I'm going to have to, you know, send out deal of the week every week. I'm going to have to make sure they're set up on property searches. There's a lot of work in the pipeline business, but those are the like, me and Sharon talk about this all the time. Those are the only 3 ways to grow your business: now business, referral business, pipeline business. You know, to try to simplify how, you know, like into a formula, how businesses are scaled.
Yeah. And just to kind of unpack it there also, like, there's something really to be said about creating the content for the long-term success as well. Meaning, scalability is only really possible when you have all 3, right? So now isn't let's say scalable, but it's the snowball that you can then roll into start and then kind of create that scale. So now business is imperative, because if you don't have now business, you're not making ends meet. So you get now business, and then you get that train moving and it never stops. Okay. Then the referral business, it's really hard to ignore somebody that keeps on talking about you. It's really hard to ignore somebody. It's really hard to ignore somebody that everybody's talking about, right? So look at, for example, this is on a mass scale. Folks like Andrew Tate, like him, hate him, it doesn't make a difference. Everybody's talking about him. You cannot ignore this dude. And so what he's about. You hear him. You people are talking about him, and it doesn't matter that he got canceled. I mean, obviously it does matter. It's crazy, but it doesn't matter that it got canceled, because he's still on your feet in some way, shape, or form. Then getting to the pipeline business, what's great about creating content like a podcast, like a YouTube channel, the question is, how do I email my database 3 times a week? Well, very simple. If you repurpose stuff that you already have, you can now engage that database. What does that look like? Let's say once a week you go, well, I could do a market update of the week. Great. That's one email a week. Another email a week is I just went live with Cody May on the Real Marketer podcast. Click here to see the episode, right? That's another one.
Yeah.
Right. So these are the kinds of things. It's like repurpose, or like even if you're going to link back to another Instagram reel that you made that week, find the one that did the best and link back to it and say, some people think that you need 20% down to buy a house. Here in this reel, I talk about why you don't. Like you just repurpose, right? Work smarter and not harder. And that's what scale looks like. But again, let me just reiterate for anybody watching this that feels like they're struggling, you're at the hardest stage of your business right now, because it's really hard to work smart, to play the game well, and to work really smart in a way that you're going to be able to scale when you're not seeing results now, which is why you have to do these things. Like, for example, why don't we sow that, get that kind of momentum? Because as you said, and this is what I really want to break down, I freaking love this. Focus drives action. Action drives momentum. Momentum drives results. So get that momentum, and then the results will come. But before we go on, let's break this down. Focus drives action. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is, like, we as entrepreneurs, real estate agents, we are so driven to shiny object syndrome. And it's like, I would rather pick one thing. Like, my business really started to grow when we went all in on real estate. Like, that was my focus, was on how can I create the best possible product for real estate agents and teams? Not doing anything else. That's the whole focus. You know, your focus is like, if you're like, let's go even more granular. It's like, how do I crush FSBOs? How do I become the best person at, like, actually calling for sale by owners and getting them into appointments? How can I be the best person at converting, leads from online? How can I be the best person at open houses? How can I be the best person at that? Like, it's like, whatever your focus is, it's going to drive, like, focus drives action. It's like, okay, like, if I'm telling myself I am the best at for sale by owners, my actions are going to drive that, because I have now this identity that I'm the best at doing this. It's like I have this fundamental belief, and I wrote about this in my book, that, our beliefs map our thoughts and our thoughts map our actions. And it's like, whatever we believe about ourselves, it's like, if I'm the best at online ads, I'm going to put all of my momentum and all my action into that. And the more action I put into that, it creates momentum. I might not get the result right away, but I created the momentum in order to get the result. And maybe there are some results that show up right now. And maybe there's, again, it depends. Like, are you in business? Like, how long are you going to be in business? I plan to never go out of business, because my actions are going to drive momentum, and momentum is going to drive results. It's like that consistent, persistent approach of every single day showing up as my best, becoming better, 1% better every day, 1% better every day, 1% better every day. If I can just do that, and I can just be better every day, whether it be like, focusing on copywriting, it's like creating almost like a curriculum for yourself. That's something I'm really focused on headed into 2023. It's like, how can I make the program better? How can I make my experience better? How can I make our setting better? It's like just consistently looking at how can we be better.
And then, like you said, focusing on how you can be better, which drives action. So once you've identified the thing that takes you better, take small actionable steps. Because, like, anybody listening or watching this, don't think you're special because you're a perfectionist and that you don't want to take action until you've really got it. Like, you're not special if that's what you're thinking. Everybody's like that, right? So that's a fear-based decision. Perfectionism is fear-based. It's ridiculous. You have to be bad at something before you be. Imagine, like, wanting to make the NBA and you say, I'm not going to start playing basketball until I'm good enough to play in the NBA. Like, that's never going to happen. It's cyclical. So try it, fail. It's going to happen. And I just made a post about this week. Fail, ask a lot of stupid questions, and make a lot of mistakes, but don't make the same mistake twice. That's it. It's a really simple formula. So focus on what you need to do. Take small actions on this. Something as simple as, again, it's like, I want to be able to, I want to start working FSBOs, or I want to start generating leads. So try one thing for a day. Just get something. And then once you do it, work on it the next day, right? So call a FSBO, have that conversation. Once you've had that action, once you've done that action, you'll be like, wow, I just did that. Let me try it again. And then you'll go. So once you focus on what you want to do, you take action on there, you will start to build some momentum, and then the results will come. But results are last. The results are the last thing to come. And hear it from me. And I'm sure Cody would agree with me 100%. Like, it's it's hard to get up every single day and continue working. Don't get me wrong, for us as well, I'm sure. Again, I haven't spoken to Cody about this, but I'm sure it's a hell of a lot easier for me to get up and work now than it was years ago. And I swear,
Totally.
in 2 years from now, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to get up and go to work than it is even today. And I love what I do.
Yeah. Something we do with our team, like, if people are looking like, it's like, well, what does that mean? Like, what do I do every single day? Like, something we just recently implemented with our team is what we call 3 non-negotiables. So it's like, you want to get 1% better every day. Like, our sales team, what they do every single day, they clock in, they're like, these are my 3 non-negotiables. By the end of the day, I need to accomplish these 3 things. I need to make 500 calls. I need to set 2 appointments, and I need to do this. And at the end of the day, they clock in again and then tell us, like, I accomplished this, I didn't accomplish this, I accomplished this. Like, what are 3 non-negotiables that you can push yourself into momentum on a daily basis that allows you to check things off? So it's like, literally check in with us every day on Slack. These are my 3 non-negotiables. I would literally write that down. It's like, you want to push yourself into momentum. Like, the vast majority of people go through life living through the motions, and I've been guilty of it as well. I like a lot, like, for the last 3-4 months, like, I've been going through the motions. Like, it hasn't been like, something's clicked in me within the last couple of weeks where I'm like, okay, I now need to set more structure in my day. But like, like, we have now with team, it's like, these are my 3 non-negotiables. By the end of the day, I have to accomplish these 3 things. And if I accomplish these 3 things, I push myself into momentum, because the vast majority of people are not doing the non-negotiable conversation.
Exactly. And that's when you show up to work, and this, I'm sure anybody listening to this will probably relate at least to some form. They show up to work and they go, I'll post a story now. Maybe I'll do like a reel.
Yeah.
Make a phone call. I haven't spoken to this guy in a couple of weeks. Let me just call him, see how he's doing. Like, there's no non-negotiables there. But like you mentioned, just have that conversation with yourself. Figure out what are the 3 things that absolutely have to happen today. Make them doable, right? Like, build a Facebook group and grow it to 500 people is not a non-negotiable. That may be a month goal or a 2-month goal or a 3-month goal, but that's not a non-negotiable.
That's not a daily non-negotiable. Yeah, no, 100%. Exactly. You want to make sure that your goals are smart.
Right, exactly. So maybe your non-negotiable is create a Facebook group. That's it. Doesn't matter how many members are in there, just set it up. That's it.
Totally.
And 3 small things like that. But I swear to God, man, if you do that 3 things every single day, like every single week, you're going to be like, that was a week ago. I was only doing that. Like, that's crazy. And that's really what starts to happen. So I want to kind of get into one interesting thing that happened when I was on your show recently. We spoke a little bit about this, and perhaps I'm leaving this a bit too late. We spoke a little bit about joining a team and the benefits or lack thereof, let's say, of joining a team. And we were kind of disagreed with each other, I think, although we didn't have enough time to talk about it. But I was saying that if you're starting out and you want more experience coming out of the gate, join a team, because it's good exposure, it's good experience, and you're learning from some of the best. But the way I was looking at it is joining a team for a solo agent. If and the words I use are, if you're going to go into real estate exclusively to join a team, just go get a job. Go get a sales job. Even if you want a commission job, that's fine if you want to do really well with that. But you're not autonomous. You're not a business owner. And for me, real estate is all about being a business owner and not working under somebody else's umbrella for the long term. So what would you say to that?
Yeah. I'm in the boat of, like, you have to do what's best for you. I think I have a fundamental belief that I think that, like, I've been in the back end of enough teams. Like, I've seen structures of businesses like that are like 40, 50, 60 people. Like, one of Sharon's really good friends, Dan Aguilar, has a massive team out of California, over 100 people. Chris Spiker, massive team, multiple different markets. I mean, I've gotten to see behind the scenes of how multiple businesses are structured. And then I see the single agent and I'm like, you guys, like, just don't have the systems, the processes, the knowledge in order to even start, in order to even get your feet off the ground. Because, like, we already know that when you come out of, like, everyone I chat with, when you come out of getting your real estate license, like, you haven't learned anything about sales processes, operations, how to run a business. I think that the vast majority of real estate agents should join a team unless they have one of things, unless they've either run a business in the past, they understand operationally what it takes. Like, they've invested $500,000 into an actual business. And they've ran a restaurant where they understand operationally how to manage, a profit and loss statement, how to effectively, create a marketing budget. They understand how to actually run a business. They understand lead generation and marketing. Either that, or they join a team. And that because the team will give them the knowledge that they need in order to effectively complete a transaction. Because a lot of people, when they get into real estate, they're like, they don't know what a transaction coordinator is. They have no idea. They don't know when to hire an admin. A good team is going to give you all the systems and all the processes. For example, we have a client, Kaval, who recently joined a team, brand new agent who he's like, I'm a sales professional. Like, I want to be able to have conversations with people. I just want to show up, have conversations, and all the back end work I want to hand off to a team. It's like, if you're going to join a team, you need to make sure that you understand what they're providing. And even if your splits are not the greatest, like, who cares? Like, you're getting you're like, as long as the team environment is great and you're learning and you're growing and they're doing all the back end work of the stuff that you don't want to do, then maybe you should join a team, because there's a lot of people that just want to be sales professionals that have a passion for real estate. And I'm cool with that. Like, I think that that's totally fine. If you just want to be a sales professional and that's all you want to do, and you want to kind of attach on to somebody's vision, I think it's like any business. It's like there's people that get into business. Like, for example, like my chief operating officer, like, she ran an agency, really, really small agency, but wasn't comfortable with taking the amount of risk that we've taken in order to get to where we are today, but it's attached onto my vision for where we're headed in the future. And she's more of an entrepreneur. She has entrepreneurial tendencies, but she's an entrepreneur. Like, she has a family, there's that level of security that people want to feel. And I think that's totally okay. I think that entrepreneur, having that being a number 2 or being a number 3, you can still make a ton of money, especially if you're working with a really large team. So I tend to take the stance, like, for me, from a business perspective, that because I don't look at it just from real estate. I look at it as a business as a whole. And I've seen so many different business operations over the last 4 or 5 years, that like accounting firms, and how they operate, where it's like, maybe eventually down the road, you join a team, you create a really good relationship with the founder, with the owner of that real estate team. And then you crush it, and then you take over the team eventually, or you become a partner in the team. I think that people need to be more self-aware on who they are and what they do. For me, there's a really big reason I partnered with Sharon and with Vikram. I've never sold real estate. I want to sell real estate. I'm working on getting my real estate license, but I've never sold real estate. But I have all the knowledge from 2 of the people that have done, between the 2 of them, have done billions of dollars in real estate. So do I understand the language? Do I understand things? Do I understand how to, I'm a marketer, but I'm a marketer with people that are badass real estate agents and badass, brokers, and have been, have done really cool things. So I think you just have to be aware, and you have to surround yourself. If you're going to go into real estate, you need to make sure that you surround yourself with people that are 10 steps ahead of you, not just necessarily 1.
So I think that the way I like the prerequisite, or the way they kind of started the formulation of the answer, is it's really, you got to do what's right for you. And I actually agree with you 100%. And I think I mentioned this on the last call, is it's really just about why you got into real estate. So if you got into real estate to make good money, you could make good money on somebody else's team 100%. And let's even say, so if you got into real estate just to make a lot of money, you don't really care about being an entrepreneur, then that's totally fine. Go make a lot of money over there. Yeah. And yeah, maybe you could make more money if you kind of go off and branch on your own, but such is the curse of the entrepreneur, is it could work, but it could not. Right. So that's the kind of a question you got to ask. But if you got into it to kind of go out and make a lot of money yourself, I still do believe that there is a lot to be said to joining a team initially at the beginning. I also love that you mentioned about the first thing that you have to understand is what it takes to run a business, because I think inadvertently you mentioned basically you have to treat it like a business, which is exactly my approach with Inabox. Anybody knows I say you're no longer a real estate agent, you're now a real estate business owner. So I think that probably I actually don't think we disagree as much as I initially thought that we did, because really, if you're going to go on it on your own, I don't want to say don't do that, because I don't like speaking definitively about this, but I will say it. Don't go solo out of the gate unless you know how to run a business. And even when you're not out of the gates, you only know that you're ready to go solo when you basically know how to treat it like a business. And if you don't know how to treat it like a business, then your life will be easier. Yeah, you may make a little bit less money. You'll have a lot more time. You probably won't make less money, to be honest. If you don't know how to run it like a business, just join a team. I agree with that. But I will say that maybe I'm projecting, because I am an entrepreneur, and a lot of the people that I like to speak to are entrepreneurs, or at least aspiring entrepreneurs. They want to be self-sufficient. They want to kind of create their own success. And I actually do agree with you that it's a non-starter unless you know how to treat it like a business. And that's why, again, Inabox is, you're no longer a real estate agent, you're now a real estate business owner. So I actually think that maybe the execution might kind of differ, but the concept is basically the same. Don't go solo unless you understand that you're not an agent, you're a business.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. I think that, ultimately you just have to be self-aware. It's like, what do you want? Like, I don't think everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. I think a lot of us are meant to be intrapreneurs. Working alongside of somebody who is entrepreneur, because like it's a massive amount of risk, and there's delayed gratification, and there's been months where I haven't been paid for like 6-7 months, and that just is the way it is. It's like there's ups and downs in real estate and business, and you just have to get confident in the fact that in your ability to figure things out, but you have to be willing also to reinvest. So we reinvest hundreds of thousands every year in order to keep the ball moving, to keep growing, to keep building. I think, like you said, in the beginning though, I am with you, the team environment. And don't get me wrong, there are teams that you shouldn't join, and you should do your due diligence prior to joining a team.
Yeah. Not all teams are created equal.
Totally. But some of these larger teams that that you can learn from, and interview the actual team lead. What are you going to get? What is their experience? I would rather see somebody take a higher split and actually get the tools that they need. We were chatting with one of our clients, Kaval, who joined a team where he's like, my split's not the greatest, but he's like, they do everything for me. From the time that I get the listing agreement signed, it's what do I do now? Nothing.
That's
do everything. Imagine that. Imagine all you had to do is show up and get a listing agreement signed, and then they take care of the rest. And you just have to make sure that the client is taken care of. It's pretty good. I would say that's a pretty good structure.
I would say that if you're in that position, try to see in the back end what's actually happening, so that if you ever decided to be an entrepreneur and go off on yourself, that you're equipped to do that, to make sure that you're taking full advantage of not only the services that are offered to you, but also knowing how they actually execute on those services as well. But yeah, totally. I think that's awesome stuff. Let me ask you one more question before we kind of go to the how can people find you question. Which type of people would be successful at generating leads, and what kind of person is not successful generating leads and being successful, making a lot of money with it?
Okay, because generating leads, anyone can generate leads as long as you have ads. So who's successful at converting leads? The clients that I've seen successful converting leads are the clients that are willing to educate. So first and foremost, you have to be willing to educate your prospect. You can't treat you, and you have to have your own process. You can't do the same process that you treat like a referral. You have to have a separate lead gen process. You have to have separate scripts. You have to be willing to use those scripts, because the approach you take to a FSBO is going to be different than the approach you take to a expired. The language that you use needs to be different. And it's the same thing with an online lead. I think that scripting, role playing, practicing, tonality, being a sales professional are all super important things, because we've ran into a circumstance where it's very similar ads are running in very similar markets. One guy is closing 12 deals within 90 days, and the other guy is closing none. It's it is absolutely a skills game that we're in. And I think that your ability to realize that if you speak with somebody, that's not a lead issue. Could be a lead issue. But most of the time it's a skills issue. A lot of the times it's a skills issue. It's you might have issues with the leads. If you get a wrong number, that's a lead issue. Totally understand. But if you get a person that fits the criteria, wants to talk about real estate, that is kind of just maybe a little standoffish. That's anybody. You walk into a store and they're I was actually just looking. It's sales people will know how to ask the right questions in order to overcome the objection. So I think that it's so important in order to make lead generation work. You need to see yourself as a sales professional, and potentially you need to invest in some sales coaching. There's tons of great people out there like Jeremy Miner, Vikram does a lot of sales training. Like it's like have some sort of sales training so that you can overcome objections. And then persistence, I would say, is the other thing. It's like persistent follow-up, organization, systems and processes that allow you to know exactly where people are at in your pipeline.
So just you kind of reminded me when you said Jeremy Miner, and then you also said when someone's in a store and you say, "Can I help you?" No, I'm just looking. So I apologize to Jeremy Miner if I butcher this, but I believe the way that he said to approach that conversation, if you are working in a store, is instead of saying, "Can I help you with anything?" which triggers the almost deep biological reaction of, "No, I'm just looking," without you even thinking about it, you say, "I know that you're just looking, but hypothetically, if you were looking for something particular, what would it be?" Ask kind of a question like that, and then the natural human response of, "No, I'm just looking," it doesn't apply over there. So they have to stop, think, pattern interrupt, and I go, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I'm looking for this or that. So just show me where they are." And great, now you've started a conversation. So let me just kind of say for everybody listening to this and everybody watching this, if what you need is lead generation, as long as you're understanding that a name and a number itself is not going to solve your problems, but it's the processes and everything around it, the way that you approach it. If you're willing to kind of be taught and be coached, Cody has my full endorsement here with his program. So if anybody's looking for lead generation, go check out Sheridan Street on Google. And with that, let me give you the floor and say, Cody, if any of these wonderful people listening here or watching here want to reach you, how can they find you?
Yeah, honestly, probably the easiest way if you want to reach me directly is just on Instagram. That's kind of where I'm most active, is literally just my personal page. It's at Cod May, CODMAY on Instagram, Cody May. That's kind of where I post the majority of my content. That's kind of where my team is the most active. We'll reach out if you want to have a conversation about kind of what we do. Would love the opportunity to chat, but likewise, Oliver, I just appreciate the opportunity that we have in order to kind of chat, lead generation, because I know we're both passionate about it. And I love to see what you're doing and the value you're providing to your community. It doesn't go unnoticed. That's for sure.